Let's return now to the implosion of the coalition. The Nationals' Senator Bridget McKenzie joins me. You're one of the shadow cabinet ministers that resignation sparked, the resignation of the entire front bench. Yeah. So in relation to the character assessments of David Littleproud, I want to go through a few of them and get your thoughts. These are from senior Liberal shadow cabinet ministers. One says he's a pathological liar. Everything Barnaby Joyce said is true. David Littleproud is paralysed by fear. Matt Canavan is running the show. I would trust Pauline Hanson before I trusted David Littleproud. We can never go back into coalition with the Nats. With Littleproud as leader, he's done this twice. He will do it again. He's impossible to deal with. He misled his own party room while lying to us. What do you say to those character assessments and critiques of David Littleproud?
Well, I think it says a lot that former shadow cabinet colleagues that we fought elections on, that we've developed policy on, and we've traversed very difficult conversations and policy positions and fights on behalf of our country over many, many years, chooses to depict a former shadow cabinet colleague and leader of the National Party in such a way. I can categorically say that Matthew Canavan is not running the National Party. The National Party party room this week made a very difficult decision to not support the hate law bills. We drafted amendments. We were unable to get to an agreement with the Liberal Party on what that looked like after all sides acting in good faith and doing their very best. So we moved
the way it was put to me was that
in the Senate that the Liberal Party could have supported, and they didn't. Amendments that would insert provisions that we could list hate groups that we want to list. We all want to list those hate groups who glorified or celebrated terrorism. They chose to vote against that. If the Liberal Party had have voted with us, that would now be in the legislation. So I understand the Liberal Party is upset. I understand my former shadow cabinet
colleagues
are briefing out today with such negative...
Scathing.
Yeah, right?
They're ropeable.
And as your mother would have said...
They misled... They're saying that David Littleproud is a pathological liar and misled them, that he indicated to them that the concerns that you raised, the National Party, were alleviated, he'd take it to the party and it would be dealt with. That did not happen. And in fact, you said in your resignation letter or offer to resign that the decision was made on 18 January to support the bill in its amended form. You said it, black and white.
I can tell you that what we considered on that Sunday night as a shadow cabinet was not the bill that was actually voted on Tuesday night. So we didn't have a further shadow cabinet on which to consider the final position of the coalition. We did not have a joint party room on which to actually consider that and hear not just from National Party MPs and senators who had 10 party room meetings to discuss this over the last week, but to hear from our Liberal colleagues. So I understand you're getting briefed.
But it wasn't the bill because the government changed the bill to accede to your request.
And then added other changes. So we've removed the schedule that deals with racial vilification, but then there were other modifications through the bill that were changes that we then had issues with. So this was a moving feast all day, amendments, government doing other things that we attempted to get across and in good faith had to put our own amendments.
The Liberal Party, I mean, when you say being briefed, it's obviously not the government briefing, it's your Liberal counterparts or former shadow cabinet ministers who say that your concerns were dealt with and you still voted against it. That's their view. Our
concerns weren't dealt with, Kieran, because I was in the room. Our room was very clear. We drafted an amendment of changes to restrict hate group listings to physical harm, and one of the 4 amendments that we moved in the Senate, we gave that to the Liberal Party and they were unable to get the government to agree to it. That was a hard line for our room, and that is why we voted against it. We also sought
in relation to your
letter.
Your letter says the decision was made. So you're saying that wasn't accurate. The decision on the amended legislation. You're saying that
shadow cabinet's discussion on Sunday night
made a decision to support amended legislation.
No, we were not presented with amended legislation in shadow cabinet. I'm not going to go to the details of shadow cabinet. I never do, cabinet or shadow cabinet. But on Sunday night, the perspective of shadow cabinet I could not comply with when it came time to vote on the legislation. And the reason
your letter says,
Kieran,
can I just read you the letter? Because it says I was unable to support
Kieran,
the decision taken on 18 January. I was unable to support the decision taken to support the bill in its amended form. That's what it says, black and white.
So I've said to you now, this will be the third time, what the Liberal Party voted on Tuesday night was not what was presented at Shadow Cabinet, categorically. So there's going to be a contested about...
Yeah, sure is, because senior Liberals
I'd like
have said
to know
to me
how
today...
you got a copy of a confidential letter, Kieran.
Senior Liberals have said to me today that you had concerns in relation to, as you've articulated today, that they took the concerns to the government. The government responded quickly, acceded to your request for the changes, and you're denying that all of your concerns were dealt with. That's basically what you're saying, that there were still some outlying pieces or concerns around this bill, because as it was put to me, is all of your concerns, as expressed by David Littleproud, were dealt with amendments and you still voted against it.
That's incorrect. I'm in my party room. Your Liberal sources aren't. My party room made it very clear. They were also all aware of the consequences of our decision.
Yeah.
There were people in the room that were reluctant yeses to the legislation. But as one, they know the consequence of their decision and our deliberations. We're a collective, we don't have factions, and so through very difficult conversations, the red lines were drawn, amendments were drafted, the Liberals had the amendments and were unable to agree to them.
Well, they say that, as I've put it to you at the start, that David Littleproud has lied through this process. And then today, David Littleproud saying that you can't serve in a coalition under Susan Lee's leadership. This has gone off as well. They're saying, so one said to me, when did he decide who should be our leader? And that another Liberal source said that he's the one that will be rolled, essentially, not her. Was that a bad call for him to say, oh, we won't go back under Susan Lee? Because essentially he's saying, get rid of her or we're gone.
No, we're gone. Let me remove the ambiguity. We've gone. It was untenable. Our whole shadow ministry tendered their resignations in light of the leader of the Liberal Party accepting our offer to resign as 3 shadow cabinet ministers. She was aware of the consequences of her decision when she accepted our offers to resign. She was aware of what that would precipitate, and she did it. That is her call, and she is well within her right as the leader of the opposition to do that.
So
I won't be criticised.
But you won't be going back into a coalition full stop?
We're not in coalition with the Liberal Party. What the Liberal Party does is entirely and rightfully a matter for them, right? Absolutely. Just as what the National Party does in the national interest, which we made a very difficult decision. It's not easy, Kieran. No. I've been here for a long time.
I know.
So we made a decision as a room of very different views of where our red lines were. We drafted the amendments and we voted accordingly.
David Littleproud said we can't serve in a coalition under Susan Lee's leadership. You're saying you won't serve under any leadership. It's done, a coalition.
Well, I don't think it's right or respectful for me to be, commentating on what a Liberal Party may or not do tomorrow, next year, in 10 years'
David
time.
Littleproud didn't have that same concern.
Well,
and it's blown
I'm not
up.
David Littleproud.
Well, so
but
people
the
that
reality
wouldn't
is,
even be described as Susan Lee's supporters have reacted angrily to that. The fact that he's trying to dictate...
Well, I think what David is articulating in those comments is decisions were made by the leader of the opposition that precipitated this outcome, and she did so knowingly of the consequences. That is the reality of why we're here, and that is why when you take decisions in a party room that have significant consequences, such as the National Party room, in good conscience, couldn't vote for this legislation. We'll know the Prime Minister's serious about hate preachers when we see the first plane load of them take off under this legislation. We did the right thing for us and for our values and beliefs. We have reflected that on the floor of Parliament, which is what we're sent here to do. that precipitated decisions by the Leader of the Opposition. She's made those decisions. They're hers to make. And respectfully, they are hers to make.
And David Littleproud is not... Again, this was put to me by a Liberal.
Yeah.
Who, as you say, you've worked with.
Well, they don't all hate us, Kieran. Melissa McIntosh.
Well, you found one. You found one. David Littleproud was described to me today as being paralysed by fear and that the whole show is being run by Matt Canavan. And
I have categorically told you, Kieran, it is not being run by Matt Canavan. I've sat in the room. Matt obviously made a submission to the hate laws. The whole room was against the unfair gun laws, which saw the Prime Minister split the bill because he had to do a deal with the Greens, thanks to the National Party, standing up for 1 million law-abiding firearm owners. So the room drafted the amendments together. Other people suggested Senate inquiries to have more say, to get intelligence experts, academics, etc., to give us some advice on the implications of this legislation. Other members of the room, as I said, moved amendments of glorifying terrorism as being a reason to actually list a hate group. So the idea that Matt Canavan's running the room disrespects our whole room.
You and I have spoken week in, week out about... we've spoken a lot about the anti-Semitism in this country. And again, a Liberal said to me this reflects badly on Mr Littleproud because he's done all this today on the day of mourning. I know you want to make some comments about the day of mourning as well, though, because obviously it's a time when we need to reflect solemnly and to ensure that those tributes are made. Do you regret the timing of all of this, though?
But we're not responsible for the timing, Kieran. We didn't dump bad legislation in front of a committee less than a week ago. We didn't schedule Parliament to come back here. We didn't schedule the day of mourning. We've been calling for action as a coalition and as a national party on anti-Semitism and cracking down on Islamic extremism for a long time. And we're not going to take lectures from the Labor Party about who we do and don't stand next to.
Can I say thanks for making the time? I know it's not an easy day for you. You lose some staff in all of this as well, so they lose their jobs. Not a difficult time, not an easy time, I should say, a very difficult time for you politically. It's always hard when you have these sorts of weeks, and I appreciate you showing up, as always.
Thanks, Kieran, but I think in these moments that's when the crucible of leadership actually is apparent. You've got to rise to the challenge and do what the Australian people sent you to do, and that's act in their interest.
And show up too, and you've done that, so thanks.